I'm Kelsey Zeiser. I'm a senior editor at Light Reading, and you're listening to the Light Reading Extra podcast. We're here at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, and I'm joined by
Shamik Basu, VP of Strategic Connectivity at Verizon.
Nice to see you, Shamik. Thanks for
Nice
joining me.
meeting you as well, and thank you for the opportunity to speak
Yeah.
and participate in the podcast. And just great to be at the show. There's so much innovation all around us.
Yeah, it's super busy. I think everyone's feet hurt by this point because we're going on day 3, but it's been a great show.
We sure got our steps in.
Yeah, 100%. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Verizon Business.
Great. So a couple of things here. So I've been a long time in the telecom space. And over the years, what we've seen from customers is that they've always wanted convergence, they wanted simplicity, and they wanted outcomes. So my role kind of brings together, sort of what we call the trifecta of all that. So I have the leadership over the strategic connectivity organization, and what that encompasses is our entire global wireless, our global wide area network portfolio, our IoT portfolio, and our fixed wireless access portfolio all coming together. And we put a layer of managed services around it. So if you start to think about how customers think about buying networks, how do they think about realizing outcomes out of those networks, and how do they think about converging IT and OT, all of this kind of is now together in one bucket, so we can actually utilize the assets that we've gone out and deployed, power them with platforms, and really put applications on top of that, some of the ones you mentioned. So for a customer, we come across as simple, turnkey, with the ability to be very flexible and innovative when it comes down to consumption.
Okay, so providing some managed services in those areas.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
And can you give some background on Verizon Sensor Insights, what that is, and what you're excited about there?
Going back to the customer again, so we would have a lot of conversations about IoT connectivity with customers. And, we were obviously, like anyone else, realizing over time that customers weren't doing IoT connectivity for a hobby. They were doing it because they wanted to realize certain outcomes. So the decision in front of us were, would we go to the entire ecosystem of sensors and say, put a cellular chip in them? Or would we participate, in the entire ecosystem, utilizing the combination of cellular and other technologies? And we did just that. We said we were going to go and create adaptive use cases like leak detection, like temperature detection, like, is my fridge failing? Are there enough people in this venue? Are people safely in this venue? So if you kind of look at the slew of use cases that you can actually serve through the combination of sensors, connectivity, and an application, it just opened up a very, very wide set of possibilities for us, which is what led to the inception of the Sensor Insights portfolio. And this just came about with a lot of customer incubation, a lot of participation by customers. So Sensor Insights is an outcome-driven solution where we're actually delivering what we called Lego blocks that customers can piece together to build entire solutions, which, by the way, is exactly what the Atlanta Hawks did. Because they were trying to solve some very specific problems in their environments. Like, they had servers that were in data rooms. They had a problem around like detection of leaks. And, what's beautiful about the solution was that, traditionally you would start to think about an environment like that and go, maybe we have to do an assessment. Maybe we have to, put out test equipment in our environment. Let me go try to source, or you go source sensors that would fit. In this case, the great team that actually leads this had a bunch of conversation with these customers and said, we're going to ship you a package. Why don't you unblock and start working and see if it works? And lo and behold, they called us back in a few weeks and said, we got it, we unboxed it through a digital purchase, and it just worked. Which is what is great about solutions like this. And customers have struggled in the past when it came down to sourcing, putting things together themselves. Mm-hmm. They're looking to people like us to really pull together the convergence of connectivity, platforms that actually help manage that connectivity, the sensor ecosystem, which we're a part of, but ultimately getting to that solution like the ones we mentioned. That's what Sensor Insights is all about. And the customer, the prospect's very happy. And as you've seen, they've participated with us in a testimonial as well.
So you mentioned the Atlanta Hawks and the State Farm Arena. Is Sensor Insights mainly for large venues, or can it be a number of different use cases?
I mean, that's the beauty of it. And I look at it in two ways. We can use Sensor Insights in a very turnkey fashion to go serve mid to small size customers, where we're going after some very purpose-specific use cases. So if you think about a very small retailer that's got a couple of fridges in their environment, you could use Sensor Insights to just detect if someone left the fridge door open. It's as small as that, all the way from combining a couple of sensors and a couple of applications to scale up to a mid-size to even a lower enterprise type use case. So I think it's a broad swath of a segment, but we're being very purposeful with the solution that we put in front of them, because we don't want the smaller customers confused with the broader scope. The smaller customers want point solutions, they want it fully integrated, and they don't have to deal with sourcing pieces of the solution themselves. So we've made something very turnkey. But at the same time, if you start to look at the bigger customers that may have their own systems that look at data differently, or feed the data into other systems, or have to make an HR system work with some of this stuff, we have that as well. So you've got sensors that are flowing in through our Sensor Insights platform into an environment that they'd like it to. So now it's very, very integrated and consumable in exactly the way customers want it. What we call this is a very composable solution, and we've nicknamed it our solutions canvas. So it's a canvas of things that you can plug and play. You put the right Lego blocks in it, and ultimately design the solution the way you want it, instead of going through the tedious process of scoping it yourself as well.
Yeah. And I imagine, especially in that venue or large stadium example, you mentioned refrigeration. There's so many, I'm just thinking of going to a football game or a hockey game. There's so many different stands with food, and, that really does make it a lot simpler to manage all those different components, and instead of just relying on the human eye of, like you said, I left the refrigerator door open.
Yeah, 100%. And what's also very interesting about this too is what we call stackable. Depends on who you are as a business and your use case is. We love it when customers start small, they validate, and then they stack up from there. And the venue is actually a great example of it, where you could start with one use case with the solution. You're satisfied, you go to the next one and the next one and the next one. So one day you're going to see, a venue start out with a leak detection solution, go to temperature monitoring, go at one point to parking lot detection or traffic detection in the parking lot. But they're not having to rip and replace platforms as they go. It's one platform, and you're stacking use cases on top of it, which is what the beauty of this is, frankly, which is why we call it the canvas. You can actually go in and have one platform, one set of investments, integrated into the devices of your choice, and building a solution, or I wouldn't even say building, I would say piecing together something that's already available to start small day one, and then stack up to multiple use cases, using the same platform and investment.
Certainly. Is there a customer dashboard where they can see insights and, run more, I suppose, graphs or reports and things based off the data that they're generating from all these different sensors?
Yeah. So there's what we call the brains of the operation. It's called Sensor Insights HQ. So when you go to HQ, it's also integrated back into our connectivity platforms and to the sensor platforms. Because we know that deploying a sensor doesn't mean that all you're doing is waiting for alerting. You may actually want to go to your HQ and get a sense for how your entire business is operating in terms of a quick snapshot of it. So as a user, I would first log into Sensor Insight HQ. If I had a router, it would give me the router diagnostics of the gateway. If I had sensors deployed, I would get that piece of information as well. I have now the opportunity to say, if something heats up, if something gets beyond the threshold, alert me. Alert not just me, but alert someone on my behalf that might be monitoring this at some point. So the fundamentals of what you'd want from a small scale OT system are all built into Sensor Insights HQ. But here's the other part of it. But there might be customers that are not relying on our Sensor Insights HQ, but instead they have a bigger HQ that they'd like this data to go into. And that's why we've built this pluggable API-like model that says, you could be a customer that's sitting on ServiceNow, that's managing, the broader business. We can plug Sensor Insights into ServiceNow, and you get a broader dashboard of everything you have to see. And which is where I think the stackable nature of this and going from one segment to the other segment becomes so easy for us, where you're starting small with Sensor Insights HQ for a smaller to mid-sized business where they use our solution in its entirety, or you go to a mid to larger sized business that has their own dashboards, but we can take our data and plug right into that dashboard and make it work across systems.
Yeah, that makes sense. And wanted to switch gears a little bit with some other IoT updates around Verizon ThinkSpace, and
Yep.
also I know you all recently had a announcement with Singtel and Skylo. So if you can speak to those.
Yeah, so look, let's touch the ThinkSpace, I think the Singtel announcements first. The Singtel is what we always call the rolling thunder of the several partners that are participating to solve a huge customer pain point today. So when we start with a U.S. multinational, they have aspirations, and their reality is how they expand their businesses. So when it comes down to supply chain companies, metering companies, automotive OEMs, healthcare companies, they're faced with the need for simplicity for where they started their business in the US. They either have to run clinical trials in a certain part of the world, they're probably sourcing and manufacturing in a different part of the world. They're coming to us and saying, how can you solve this mesh of multiple global operators, multiple markets? So that's what's led to our creation of the Global Internet Orchestrator. It's a single pane of glass. You can work with us. We'll take you to multiple markets, 133 markets. And the Singtel relationship is the latest one where we're saying, these aren't our markets. Singtel is an operator in the Asia-Pac region. We'd like to, utilizing eSIM, give customers the flexibility and sort of the single pane environment where they can manage devices that go to those markets. But we're not going to build networks there. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to localize using an eSIM that utilizes Singtel's network in the Asia-Pac region. We're going to utilize Telenor, who was our previous partner in this, in the EMEA region, and we're going to use Bell Canada in Canada. So when you look at this ecosystem of partners coming together, to think about what just happened, well, we can take that U.S. customer now to multiple regions using one platform, which means they get common diagnostics with it, common management of the SIM, right? And more importantly, they're past those regulatory compliance situations that they run into where certain markets don't allow certain types of SIMs. We're solving that problem for them now, So that's sort of the latest on the role that Singtel is going to play. They're part of their a spoke in the hub and spoke model that we've invested in. But we're also very excited about the Skylo arrangement, because if you start to think about it, we were just discussing it at a panel earlier today, was, you would hear things like, 90% of the human habitable environments in this earth, have some sort of a cellular connectivity signal. But that doesn't apply to IoT. Like, when we looked at, a recent network turndown, we found that our IoT devices were like in the near oceans and in buoys and that weren't even trackable. And that's where, the case for satellite is so intense. Where we say, if that thing falls out of connection, or connectivity from us, how can we guarantee that customer the continuity of their business? And which is why the interoperability with Skylo as an NTN partner is the first of many. But it gives that customer, two things. One is, if you look at this broader set of announcements we're doing, one, I can take a customer to multiple markets, and in those markets, and even in the US, when you fall out of coverage, cellular coverage, I can fall them right into what I call the last gasp network, which is Skylo, and kind of give them the continuity of the connection. So that is basically what, and you're going to see many more of these coming. Our goal is to make sure that we can actually activate newer operators in each market, every 2 quarters.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you were talking about APIs a little bit earlier when we were discussing sensor insights. Does
Yep.
that fit into this application for IoT as well?
Absolutely. So, we talk about single pane of glass not for visualization, but we also talk about single pane of API. So, obviously customers want one-time training, one set of documentation, one place to go to for APIs. So all the products we've talked about so far are built off of our single framework, which is ThingSpace. We are doing close to about 1 billion transactions in APIs, in that environment right now. So any new applications we launch, we make sure that the accessibility of that application is through our single API platform. Sensor Insights that is built on the same platform. The next few IoT applications we're building are all going to be built on the ThingSpace framework. And obviously, all the global pieces we talked about. And that's the simplicity. People authenticate once, they get one piece of discovery, they get one set of APIs, and they get to use all our applications. And more importantly, if you're sitting in a hyperscale cloud environment, that's the language you speak. Mm-hmm. So we are also embedded in these hyperscale cloud environments to say that you can natively consume our services without having to use our dashboards. Mm-hmm. And that's what customers want. So I think we're kind of taking our services through APIs to environments where customers want to be at.
Right, makes sense. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you joining me on the podcast.
It was amazing. Thank you. And we'll look forward.